Welcome back. On May 9th, the US Copyright Office released part 3 of a report that said what every creator and artist has been screaming about. Tech companies are stealing our work. ChatGPT, Meta AI, Google's Gemini, whatever Grok thinks it is today, all of it was built by scraping everything we've ever made. Your voice, your art, your face, your words, all of it has been taken without permission and without paying us a dime. And the report didn't hold back either. It called out the tech industry's excuses. It buried the AI learns like a human argument, and it made it painfully clear if you're going to use people's work to compete against them in the market, you need to pay them. Period. And less than 24 hours later, Donald Trump fired the woman who wrote the report. Her name was Shera Perlmutter, and she was simply doing her job. As director of the US Copyright Office, she was the last line of defense between the blood, sweat, and tears you pour into your work and Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, and the rest of the tech bros who believe that stealing from us, flipping it into billions of dollars, and calling it innovation is somehow perfectly acceptable. Shera told the truth. She did her job and she got fired for it. Fired for protecting creators, fired for refusing to bend the knee to the dictator in the Oval Office and his band of nerdy ass Silicon Valley vampires. The AI gold rush is here. And unlike the prospectors of the 1800s who had to dig through rock and risk their lives to mine something real, these assholes are just downloading our lives and calling it innovation. And if you think it stops there, you haven't been paying attention. This isn't just about some copyright. This is about complete control over what we are, who we are, and what we create. So, if you've been wondering who's really behind the rise of AI, why it's moving so fast, so recklessly, and without any accountability, then buckle the fuck up, because this week's episode is called Trump Fired Our Last Line of Defense. What the report actually said. Part 3 of the Copyright Office's AI report wasn't vague, and it wasn't neutral either, let's be clear. It directly challenged the legal excuse these tech companies have been leaning on for years, that training AI on copyrighted content should fall under fair use. Instead, the report laid out a very different view. It said whether something qualifies as fair use depends on what was used, where it came from, what the outputs are doing in the market, and whether those outputs compete with the original creators. And that last part matters. Because if you're a journalist or a songwriter or an artist of any kind, and AI companies are using your work to generate something that has replaced you in your own industry, that's certainly not fair use. That's not fair use. And it's a direct threat to your livelihood. And Shera wasn't done. She also went after this AI learns like a human talking point these tech companies love to spit out, calling it overly simplistic and legally misleading. AI doesn't learn, it extracts, it replicates, and it generates. It doesn't understand how you and I do. It recognizes patterns in the ones and zeros of our data and returns results that look like they match, often convincingly so. But what happens when the things it generates floods the market with knockoff content trained on our work? There's nothing transformative about that. It's just AI generated slop, and eventually it's going to change the way that we use our brains critically and creatively, and not in a good way. But Shera didn't storm the Capitol or threaten to hang a tech bro because of all this. Of course not. She's a sane human being, a professional, if I do say so myself. She didn't need to do any of that. Her carefully researched, legally grounded report was enough to wake people up. And it gave the courts a framework to better understand what the American people are up against. It gave lawmakers something to point at so that they can finally regulate this industry and protect the public. And it gave creators like me and maybe some of you language that we can use to organize and defend ourselves from the highway robbery happening right in front of our faces. For the first time in a long time, a government institution looked at Silicon Valley and said, no, this is not innovation, it's exploitation. And that's what made her dangerous. Not because she was wrong, because she wasn't, but because she was fucking right. Because the second a government official gives the public something to stand on, it creates this risk for the people looking to control how we think. Legal risk, financial risk, political risk. And in a country where billionaires are never supposed to face consequences, that kind of risk needed to be snuffed out. These companies aren't just building tools for everyday life. They're building empires, evil ones, with like Death Stars and everything. And they don't want oversight. They don't want regulators. They don't want public servants doing their job. And they damn sure don't want the public to know about what they're actually up to. So when someone like Shera draws a line in the sand, they call on Big Daddy Plump to come remove the problem. Follow the money. And oh my God, would you look at that? Just days after she was removed, the US House passed Trump's big, beautiful bill. And a lot of talk has surrounded this bill, but the one area that seems to be lost in the fog is this. Subsection C, titled Moratorium, states that, subject to limited exceptions, no state or political subdivision may enforce during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this moratorium any law or regulation limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce. That's a whole lot of words for we get to do whatever we want for 10 years and nobody gets to tell us otherwise. This law would effectively ban states and cities from enforcing any AI regulations for the next 10 years. A decade-long ban on AI oversight, completely stripping local governments of their ability to protect the public from the rapid and unregulated expansion of artificial intelligence. And how does that serve the public? Spoiler, it doesn't. Because this moratorium isn't about creating new technologies that truthfully benefit the American public, or anyone for that matter. It's about eliminating any and all obstacles that stand in the way of the richest assholes on this planet being able to create software that does nothing but create a world in which we can't tell what's real and what's not. So if it's not for the greater good of the public, who stands to benefit from all this? Well, let's first start with Captain Cheats at Video Games, because of course he does himself, Elon Musk. Last year, Elon became Donald Trump's single biggest financial backer, pouring at least $250 million into Trump's campaign, going as far to give millions of dollars away to individual voters who pledged to vote for Trump. They really love the Constitution, guys. I swear, they love it. But Elon will tell you that that money was well spent. Donald Trump won the election, and as head of Doge, Elon now gets to literally wield a chainsaw as he cuts departments, programs, and assistance away from the American public. But a pattern has emerged. An investigation by Senate Democrats found that Elon's influence in our government could benefit SpaceX, Neuralink, XAI, and all of his other companies by saving and making him a shit ton of money. Looking at XAI specifically, Elon is directly going to gain from weaker copyright protections, which is something he welcomes since he's publicly and repeatedly called for the abolition of intellectual property law, including copyright law, and has dismissed the legitimacy or practicality of copyright lawsuits against AI companies, going as far to say,
I don't know, except to say that by the time these lawsuits are decided, we'll have digital God. So I ask digital God at that point. These lawsuits won't be decided before on a time frame that is relevant.
Digital God. Digital God. Okay. So yeah, when the US Copyright Office releases a report that threatened to slow down AI development or force companies like his to actually compensate creators, Musk has a very real reason to see it as a threat. And $250 million buys you a lot of influence with the con man. Hey, thanks, Citizens United. But Musk isn't the only one cashing in. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, who makes ChatGPT if you don't know, was once a vocal critic of Donald Trump. But in January 2025, he stood alongside the president and the CEOs of SoftBank and Oracle to announce the $500 billion Skynet infrastructure project. I'm sorry, it's actually called Stargate, the Stargate AI infrastructure project. You really wouldn't want to convince those two absolutely normal and safe sounding AI names, right? And construction is already underway in Abilene, Texas. And construction is already underway in Abilene, Texas, with the first data center scheduled to open by the end of this year. And while the project has drawn some global attention and skepticism, with some people even questioning whether the full investment will materialize, it probably won't. Sam has since praised this administration's support for AI innovation, saying publicly that watching Trump more carefully recently has really changed my perspective on him, adding that Trump will be incredible for the country in many ways. Fucking yikes, my guy. Altman even suggested that OpenAI could seek to raise trillions more for future infrastructure. And just this month, Stargate's international expansion was announced with a new project in the UAE because we absolutely love those guys, don't we? So, what changed? This is a guy who repeatedly warned people about how dangerous Trump's leadership and his policies are, even going as far as to compare Trump to Hitler in 1930s Germany in 2016, calling on other tech companies to stand against Trump in the early days of the new administration back in 2016. And now, standing lockstep with the administration who will simply remove any obstacles between building AI humanely or making billions of dollars, Sam has snuggled up right next to fascism. Pathetic. And then there's Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't know why Mark pisses me off the most, but he does, so I apologize ahead of time. Zuckerberg's shift towards Trump's administration has been months in the making. After years of clashing with him publicly, including rightfully suspending Trump's Meta accounts after January 6th, Zuckerberg has now made a dramatic but predictable pivot. He's visited the White House and Mar-a-Lago multiple times this year. He's donated $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund and installed MAGA loyalists inside Meta's policymaking department. On an earnings call back in January, Zuckerberg told his company, "We now have a U.S. administration that is proud of our leading companies, prioritizes American technology winning, and that will defend our values and interests abroad. And I'm optimistic about the progress and innovation this is going to unlock." Give me a fucking break, you piece of shit. He's also been on Capitol Hill lobbying senators to shape AI regulation in Meta's favor, because Zuck has bet his entire company on AI working after betting it all on whatever the metaverse was supposed to be. He's poured billions of dollars into AI, and Zuckerberg has made it clear that he wants as few restrictions as possible. In an interview last fall, he argued that individual creators or publishers tend to overestimate the value of their specific content. Let me read that again. Individual creators or publishers tend to overestimate the value of their specific content. it's still it's still so funny. It's still so funny to me. Oh my god, it's so funny to me. The guy who founded an internet company whose sole purpose was rating the hotness level of women who wouldn't touch him if he were the last belle at the ball thinks that artists overvalue their work. Zuck, you know what? Just let me not go there. This dude, I don't know why he pisses me off so much, but he does. God, I don't know why he pisses me off. He later added, "When you put something out into the world, to what degree do you still get to control it and own it and license it?" I think that all of these things are basically going to need to get relitigated and rediscussed in the AI era. Oh my god, it's all so stupid. Anyways, translation: you don't get to own what you make because I want to make billions off of it. It's just like, does he listen to what he's saying when he opens his mouth? Does anybody listen to what he's saying when he opens his mouth? Like, what? The people, the people. At to what point do you get to come? What the so stupid? It's so dumb. But let's be honest, it's not shocking that Mark bent the knee. Of course not. Meta is facing a massive antitrust trial that could reshape the foundation of the company. So, of course, Zuckerberg's relationship with Trump has gone all warm and fuzzy. Mark hopes to resolve the case before it can force Meta to break up its empire and build an AI overlord off the backs of the creators who have made him billions of dollars in the process. And I mean, just tell me when I'm telling lies. You know, this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's all right there. And it's just money. It's always just money because these guys are so fucking boring. These tech billionaires have a direct financial interest in deregulating AI. Of course they do. Capitalism is gonna capitalism. But it's our government that should have a direct interest in the safety and well-being of the American public. But if Trump is selling us out and the tech companies are happy to turn our brains into mush, who's looking out for us? Well, we are. We're gonna have to. Because here's what the tech bros don't actually realize. They're getting greedy, they're getting sloppy, and they are pushing too hard in the wrong direction. And now we can see exactly what they're doing. Shera gave us something to cling to. She gave us a roadmap. The Copyright Office report isn't just sitting in some forgotten cabinet. It's a legal framework that creators, lawyers, and activists can use to fight back. Every lawsuit against AI companies can now point to an official government document that says, this isn't fair use, this is theft. And those lawsuits are already happening. Artists are suing Stability AI, writers are going after OpenAI, musicians are taking on the platform. Every single case builds on the work Shera did before Trump tried to make her disappear. But we can't just wait on the courts to save us. We have to come together against these companies in our daily lives. Every time you create something, anything, you are pushing back against their vision of a world where human creativity doesn't matter anymore. Every time you support a real creator instead of some Frankenstein AI remix, You are voting with your wallet against their business models. And we have got to be loud because the one thing these companies can't AI generate around is public opinion turning on them. And when people realize AI isn't just some cool little shortcut, but a force that's showing up in every meeting that we have at work, every product in our lives, and every app on your phone, that's when this stops feeling like the future we thought we wanted and starts to feel like a headfirst slide into some dystopian nightmare. Because think about it. Your boss says the new enterprise AI system is going to save everyone time. But what does that actually mean? Less time doing your job or less need for you at all? You can now recreate someone's face with a few taps on your phone. You can generate fake audio clips, fake news footage, fake everything. We are inching toward a future where we won't be able to trust our own eyes and ears. And while all of that is unfolding, the tech industry is asking for a 10-year head start. 10 years without oversight, without regulation, without any accountability. I'll ask you this again. Who does that help? This is why we have to stick together. Look at the Hollywood strikes. Writers and actors shut it all down because they saw this coming and they won. They forced studios to admit that AI can't replace writers. Actors must consent to their likeness being used and humans must stay in control of the work. A huge step in the right direction, all because they stuck together. Yes, the tech bros want us isolated, burnt out, and competing against the very machines that were trained on our work. But when we organize, when we demand fair compensation, when you say you don't get to extract and erase us, that's when they'll learn that we're not fing around. Trump can fire the public servants doing their job. Elon can just buy his way into the White House, and Zuck can lobby Congress all he wants. But they cannot stop us from fighting for the value of real human creativity. You know, it's never been done, but maybe it's time. Maybe it's the only way. A human creativity union could benefit all of us. Call it Humans United Creative Union. I don't know, call it what you want. But I think we could really use one. And now, I want to be crystal clear about something. I'm actually not anti-AI. I don't believe that AI is evil by default. It's simply a tool, and like any tool, its impact depends on who's using it and what they're using it for. But right now, the people in power are using it to scale profit, accelerate our inequality, and undermine the trust in what it means to be human. And that's not a tech problem. That's a values problem, an American values problem. Because AI might be able to simulate creativity, but it can't feel what we feel. It can't understand heartbreak. It can't wrestle with grief. It can't tell a story that was actually lived. And that human element, that deep, messy, miraculous part of all of us is what we're really fighting to protect. So no, I'm not advocating for shutting down the future. This is about fighting for a future that still makes room for us, for the nuance, the flaws, the heart, for what it means to be human. They fired Shera because she told the truth. If you're going to use people's work to compete against them, you need to pay them. So let's make them pay. Or do you want a handful of billionaires deciding that human labor, connection, and imagination aren't worth anything unless they get to get rich from it? At the end of the day, they need us more than we will ever need them. And I'm not just talking about AI. They need us more than we need them. Remember that. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love my last one about what ChatGPT thinks about Donald Trump. And I know, the irony. But until next time, peace, love, and remember, we are only human. And that's our superpower.